In the first question, please write the number 3,107 in figures. So 3,107. Write 310 as a percentage. So we multiply 3 over 10 with 100. So cancel out the 0 and it's going to be 30%. In question 3, it says simplify m plus m plus n plus m. So we're adding m 4 times. So that's going to be 4m. If we were multiplying m 4 times, then it would be m to the power of 4 because we add the powers and the base remains the same. Next question says change 4,000 grams into kilograms. 1 kg is 1,000 grams. And 1 gram is 1 over 1,000 kgs. So to convert 4,000 grams into kilograms, we divide 4,000 by 1,000, and that's going to give us 4 kgs. Question 5 says 7, -5, 3, 9, and -2 are a set of numbers, and we have to write these numbers in order of size, starting with the smallest number. So smallest over here is not going to be -2, but -5. Why? Because if we make a number line, we have positive numbers on the right-hand side and negative numbers on the left-hand side. So over here we have 3, then we would have 7, and then we would have 9. And over here, we will first have -2 because we start from 0, -1, -2, -3, -4, and then -5. So as you can see, -5 has the least value and 9 has the greatest value. So we start with -5, then we go to -2, then 3, then 7, then 9. As you can see, we're going in this direction, from the smallest number to the largest. Smallest, largest. Question number 6 says, the diagram shows a shape on a centimeter grid. Find the area of the shape. So if it's a centimeter grid, that means each small square equals to 1 centimeter. So over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Since we have 14 squares in this shape, so the area is 14 centimeter square. Then it says find the perimeter of the shape. So for the perimeter, what we will do is we will look at the boundary of the shape. So this length is 2. This is going to be 4. This is 1. This is 2 again. This is 3. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we add these up, 6 plus 2 plus 4 plus 1 plus 2 and plus 3. That's going to give us 18 centimeter. That is the perimeter of this shape. Question 7 says, here's a 4-sided spinner. Samina spins the spinner once. Choose the word that best describes the probability that the spinner lands onto. As you can see on the spinner, we have 4 portions and 2 portions have 2 written on them. So the probability of getting a 2 would be 2 out of 4, which can be simplified to 1 over 2. And that is an even probability. Why? Because from a total of 4 portions, 2 portions have 2 written on them. So that's half of the total number of portions. Hence, it's an even probability. Part B says choose the word that best describes the probability that the spinner lands on a number less than 4. So for the spinner to land on a number less than 4, we have number 1, number 2, number 2, number 2, and number 3. All these 4 are less than 4. So the probability of a spinner landing on a number less than 4 is going to be certain because all of them are less than 4. Ralph rolls a biased dice once. The probability that he gets the number 5 is 0.4. Work out the probability that Ralph does not get the number 5. So if the probability of getting number 5 is 0.4, the probability of not getting a number 5 would be 1 minus 0.4, which is 0.6. Number 8 says the quadrilateral has 4 right angles and 4 sides of equal length. Write down the mathematical name of this quadrilateral. So when you talk about quadrilaterals, right angles are in rectangles and squares. But only a square has all equal lengths. Hence, the quadrilateral they're talking about is a square. Then says the diagram shows a solid shape. Write down the mathematical name of this shape. This is a cuboid because all faces are rectangles and they have different lengths. Question 9 says table shows the number of books read by 4 people in 1 month. Work out the median number of books. So in question number 9, in order to find the median number of books, so the smallest number of books read is 1. Then there are 5 books. Then there are 7 books. And then there are 9 books. So median will be in the middle of 5 and 7. So if we do 5 plus 7 divided by 2, that's going to be 12 over 2, and that is 6, which means the median number of books is 6. Let's just find the range. So for the range, we subtract the maximum value from the minimum value. Minimum value over here is 1 and maximum is 9. So range is going to be maximum minus minimum, which is 9 minus 1, and that is 8. That is your range. On the grid, draw a bar chart to show the information in the table. On the y-axis, we have the number of books. And on the x-axis, we have the name of the people. So persons and number of books. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 people and 7915. So XMKT. So first, let's label the y-axis. So for the y-axis, let's start with 0, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So for the first person, it was 7 books, then 9, then 1, 5. 7, 9, 1, and then 5. So in the x-axis, we'll write their names. So this is your bar chart. Question 10 says Wayne begins walking at 8:30 a.m. He walks for 1 hour and 45 minutes. Wayne then rests for 15 minutes, and then he walks for 85 minutes to a cafe. Does Wayne get to the cafe before 12 noon? You must show how you get your answer. Starting at 8:30, then he walks for an hour. So that's 9:30. Then he walks for 45 minutes. That's going to be 10:15. Then he's resting for 15 minutes. That's going to be 10:30 now. Then from 10:30, he walks for 85 minutes. So let's split 85 into 60 and 25 minutes. So 1 hour, that's 11:30. 25 minutes, that's going to be 11:55. So as you can see, Wayne does reach the cafe before 12 noon since his arrival time is 11:55 a.m. So yes. Question 11 says Gabriel thinks of a number. He multiplies his number by 5 and then adds 7. His answer is 72. What number did Gabriel think of? So let's assume that the number is x. So he multiplies x with 5 and then adds 7 to the result. That equals to 72. So 5x plus 7 equals to 72. Take 7 to the other side. So 5x equals to 72 minus 7. And that is going to give us 65. So x is going to be 65 divided by 5, and that is 30. So 13 is the number that Gabrielle thinks of. Question 12 says some students took a guitar exam. The pie chart shows information about the grades the students got. So we have to write on the model grade. So the model grade is basically going to be the highest frequency. So highest frequency is for merit, which is 150. So model grade is merit. Then it says 7 students got distinction. Work out the total number of students who took the guitar exam. So if 7 students are getting distinction, so this is going to be the area that we're focusing on, distinction. So 7, which is the number of students, equals to 105, which is the angle for distinction students in the pie chart, divided by 360 times total students. Or you could have written this as 7 over total students. Basically compare the fractions of the number of students to the angle for the distinction. So 105 over 360. Both ways are correct. So we know that to make total students a subject, we're going to multiply 7 with 360 and then divide that by 105. So we can find the total number of students. So that'll give us 24. So total of 24 students took the exam. Question 13 says, Rowena drove from her home to a beach. Here is a travel graph for her journey. So we have a distance time graph. And it says that Rowena stopped at a cafe on her way to the beach. How many minutes did Rowena take to drive to the cafe? So this is her starting from home over here. Then she's driving to the beach. So this is her starting from home, and this is where the beach is located. So on her way, she stops at a cafe. So this is the cafe. How do we know this is the cafe? Because she is stopping at the cafe, and that stopping part is shown when there is no distance being covered. The distance is constant. And as you can see, the distance time graph at this point, your distance is constant at 10. It's not decreasing or increasing, which means this is the duration during which she stopped at the cafe. So how many minutes did she take to drive to the cafe? So she started from 12, and this is the point at which she reached the cafe. So if you look at the scale of the x-axis, between 12 and 13, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 boxes. So if we divide 60 by 4, that is 15. So which means each small box represents 15 minutes. So over here, it's going to be 12:30. So it took her 30 minutes. Then it says, write down the distance from Rowanna's home to the cafe. So from home to the cafe, this is the point where she reached the cafe. So her distance is 10 miles. Then it says Rowanna stayed at the beach for 1.5 hours. She then drove home without stopping. She arrived home at 16. On the grid, complete the travel graph. So she's staying at the beach for 1.5 hours. So if we start from here, let's look at the time at this point first. She is reaching the beach at 13:30. So for 1.5 hours, this is half hour and this is 1 hour. So she's going to leave the beach at 15. and she's going to reach home at 16. So this is your distance time graph for the remaining journey. And it says work out the average speed for the journey from the beach to her house. So average speed from her beach to the house, we're going to focus on this portion. So what we will do is, average speed is distance over time. Distance is 35 miles. And time is 1 hour. So that's going to be 35 miles per hour. That is your average speed from the beach to her house. 14 says 120 boxes cost £6. 270 bags cost £10. A bag is cheaper than a box. How much cheaper? So if 120 boxes cost £6, one box will cost 6 over 120, 0.05 pounds. Then for bags, 270 bags cost £10. So one bag will cost 10 over 270, which is equal to 0.037. So to find how much the bag is cheaper by, we subtract the two. 0.05 minus 0.037. And that's going to give us 0.013 pounds. Question 15 says there are only red beads and green beads in a bag. Number of red beads is to number of green beads is 1:4. There are 35 red beads in the bag. Work out the total number of beads in the bag. So if there are 35 red beads, 35 over the total number of beads equals to 1 over 1 plus 4. Why it's 1 over 1 plus 4? Because when we're dealing with ratios, your denominator is always the sum of values in the ratio, and the numerator is always that value which we're trying to find, which in this case is number of red beads. So for number of red beads, it's going to be 1 over 1 plus 4, which is going to be, I'm going to write this as x. 35 over x equals to 1 over 5. So x is going to be 35 times 5, which gives us 175. So there's a total of 175 beads in the bag. Question 16 says describe fully the single transformation that maps shape A onto shape B. So as you can see, we're going in the anti-clockwise direction, and it's a rotation, because if it was a reflection, the direction of the shape would be the same, like it would just be like reflected into a mirror line. And it's not an enlargement because the size of the shape is exactly the same. So it's a rotation in the anti-clockwise direction. And as you can see, it's a 90-degree rotation, because if we rotate this by 90 degrees, I'm just going to show you how. So you draw a 90-degree line. This point over here was 2 units horizontally and 2 vertically. So when you rotate it 90 degrees anti-clockwise, it's 2 horizontally and vertically. But if you look at this one, this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units horizontally and 2 vertically. So when you rotate it, it becomes 2 units horizontally and 5 vertically. So as you can see, the direction of the shape has changed. So that's how you can check whether it's a rotation or not. And the center is 0, 0. Question 17 says the diagram shows the position of town T. Town R is 55 kilometers from town T on a bearing of 65 degrees. Mark the position of town T with the cross X and use a scale of 1 centimeter to 10 kilometers. So since town R is at a bearing of 65 from town T, that's approximately going to come over here. This would be your town R. Now it says that there's a distance of 55 kilometers between both T and R. And the scale used is 1 centimeter to 10 kilometers. So that means 55 kilometers in centimeters is going to be 55 divided by 10, which is going to be 5.5 centimeters. So this distance, you need to make sure that this is 5.5 centimeters. And using your protractor, you can measure the angle. Since I can't do this, so I'm just going to give you a rough estimation. This angle should be 65. So your town R should be situated somewhere over here. Question 18 says solve 4 times 2x minus 3 equals to 20. So first we'll expand the brackets. So 4 times 2x plus 4 times negative 3 equals to 20. That's 8x minus 12 equals to 20. 8x equals to 20 plus 12. Because you take negative 12 to the other side and it becomes positive. So that's going to be 32. And x is going to be 32 divided by 8, which equals to 4. So x equals to 4. Question 19 says Jenny invests 3,000 pounds for 6 years at Y% simple interest per year. At the end of the 6 years, Jenny has received a total of 450 pounds in interest. Work out the value of Y. So simple interest has the formula of principal amount times your rate of interest times the time period. So simple interest is 450 over here. And this equals to 3,000, which is the principal amount being invested, times the rate of interest, y over 100. Always write your interest as a fraction, not as a percentage, times the time period, which is 6. So 450 equals to 30 times y times 6. 450 over 30 times 6, which is going to be 450 over 180. And that's going to give us 5 over 2, which is 2.5%. That is your value of y. Question 20 says simplify m square whole power cube. So since this is a part of indices, one of the rules of indices is that whenever you have a power outside the bracket and inside the bracket, you multiply them. So it becomes m to the power of 6. In the next part, simplify x to the power of 5 times x to the power of 8. So whenever you have similar bases being multiplied, you will add the powers. So that's going to be x to the power of 13. Next says expand 4p times p square plus 3p. Expand the bracket. So 4p gets multiplied with p square and 4p gets multiplied with 3p. 4p times p square is 4p cube and 4p times 3p is 12p square. When you multiply the variables, and if the variables are exactly the same, the powers get added. And for the coefficients, you just multiply them with each other. So 4 times 3 becomes 12. Question 21 says Johnny wants to know how much coffee he will need for 800 people at a meeting. Each person who drinks coffee will drink 2 cups of coffee. 10.6 grams of coffee is needed for each cup of coffee. Johnny assumes that 68% of the people will drink coffee. Using this assumption, work out the amount of coffee Johnny needs, giving your answer correct to the nearest gram. So firstly, let's find the number of people who will be drinking coffee. Number of people drinking coffee So that's going to be 68 over 100 times 800. And that's going to give us 544. Now next, they told us that each person will drink 2 cups of coffee. And 1 cup of coffee has 2.6 grams of coffee. So if 1 cup has 2.6 grams, 2 cups will have 2 times 10.6, which will give us 21.2 grams. So since each person is going to drink 2 cups of coffee, so the amount of coffee he needs will be product of 544, which is the number of people who will drink coffee, times the number of coffee present in the 2 cups which each person will drink. So 21.2. And that's going to give us 11,532.8 grams. Since they want the answer correct to the nearest grams, that's going to be 11,533 grams. So that is the amount of coffee Johnny would need for the meeting. Then it says Johnny's assumption is wrong. 72% of the people will drink coffee. How does this affect your answer to part A? So if 72% people drink coffee, that means that more people are drinking the coffee now. So if more people are drinking the coffee, that means he's going to need more coffee. So Johnny will need more coffee. That would mean our answer in part A would increase in value. Question 22 says ACF and ADG are straight lines. BCD and EFG are parallel lines. Show that the triangle ACD is an isosceles. So let's highlight this triangle first. ACD needs to be an isosceles. So what we will do is that we know that BCD and EFG are parallel lines. So if you remember the properties of parallel lines, alternate angles are equal, which means this angle will also be 125. And since ACF is a straight line, which means this angle and this angle will be supplementary. So if we subtract 125 from 180, that gives us 55. This is your angle APD, 55. Same case over here, ADG is a straight line as well. So these two angles are supplementary. So angle ADC would be 180 minus 110, which is 70. So this angle over here is 70. Now to find the third angle, we know sum of angles in a triangle. Angles in a triangle equal to 180. So if we do 180 equals to 55 plus 70 plus x, I'm going to assume this is x. So 180 minus 55 minus 70 equals to x, which is 55 degrees. So as you can see, this is also 55 now. And isosceles angles, you need to have two equal angles. So if two angles are equal, that means these two lengths are also equal. So now we can prove that this is an isosceles triangle. Question 23 says it takes 14 hours for 5 identical pumps to fill a water tank. How many hours would it take 4 of these pumps to fill another water tank of the same size? So it says that it takes 14 hours for 5 identical pumps to fill a water tank. So 14 hours for 5 pumps. They want us to find how many hours it would take for 4 of these pumps to fill another water tank of the same size. So to find how much time it would take for one pump, we will divide 5 by 5. So over here, if we're dividing 5 by 5 to find the amount of time it would take for one pump, that means it's going to be 5 times more for the time, because it's like if 5 identical pumps are taking 14 hours, so one pump would take 5 times that much time. So 14 times 5 is 70 hours. Now, to find how much time it would take for 4 of these pumps to fill another tank. So for 4 pumps, what we do is we times 1 by 4, because we're increasing the pumps by 4. And since we're increasing the pumps by 4, that means the time taken for one pump would be divided by 4, because one pump is taking 70 hours. So 4 pumps would take less time compared to that. So 70 divided by 4 is going to be 17.5 hours. And that is your answer. Question 24 says A and B are numbers such that A equals to 2 square times 3 to the power 4 times 7 and B equals to 3 square times 7 square. Find the highest common factor of A and B. So if you look at the highest common factor, we know 1 7 is present in both of them, and we have a 3 square present in both of them. Because if we split A into 2 square times 3 square times 3 square times 7 and B into 3 square times 7, we can easily see that we have a 7 common and we have a 3 square common. So your highest common factor will be 3 square times 7, which is 9 times 7, and that is 63. That's your highest common factor. So for the lowest common multiple, what we would do is, that's going to be 2 square times 3 to the power of 4 times 7 square. This would be your lowest common multiple. So when you multiply these, what we get is 4 times 81 times 49, and that's going to give us 15,876. That is your lowest common multiple of A and B. Question 25 says, lava flows from a volcano at a rate of 11.9 meter per second. How many days does it take for 67,205,600 meter cube of lava to flow from the volcano? Giving your answer correct to the nearest day. So in this case, what we will do is that we know that 11.9 would equal to the volume of the lava being divided by the time it takes. So let's divide the volume by the rate to find the time. And that's going to give us 5,647,529.41 seconds, because the rate was meter per second. So this is going to be, so the time we just calculated is going to be in seconds. Now what we're going to do is we're going to convert this time from seconds to days. So we know 1 hour has 3,600 seconds. And 1 day has 24 hours. So for 24 hours, so in 1 day, we have 24 times 3,600 seconds, which is going to equal to 86,400 seconds. So now for 1 second, we divide the time calculated by our number of seconds in a day. And that will give us 65.20, which can be rounded to 65 days, correct to the nearest day. That is your answer. Question 26 says, here's the graph of y equals to x squared minus 2x minus 2. Write down the coordinates of the turning point on the graph of y equals to x squared minus 2x minus 2. So turning point is this, which is going to be 1, negative 3. Write down an estimate for one of the roots of x squared minus 2x minus 2. So roots are basically your intersection points at the x-axis. So for over here, what I'm getting is negative 0.78. And over here, I'm getting 2.78. So you can give like either of these values because they're asking for one of the roots, not both of them. So either of them would be correct. Or like it would be like in a given range because obviously it's an estimate, not an exact value. Question 27 says a solid cube is made of metal. The metal has a density of 9 grams per centimeter cube, and the volume of the cuboid is 72 centimeter cube. Work out the mass. Density equals to mass over volume. So density is 9, mass is what we have to calculate, and volume is 72. So 9 times 72 is going to give us the mass, which is basically equal to 648 grams. That is your mass. Question 28 says write 9 times 10 to the power of 4 is to 4.5 times 10 to the power of 6 in the form of 1 is to n, where n is an integer. So let's rewrite this as a fraction. 9 divided by 4.5 is basically 2. And whenever we have similar bases being divided, we subtract the powers. So 2 times 10 to the power of 4 minus 6 is going to be 2 times 10 to the power of negative 2. Let's make 10 to the power of negative 2 positive by bringing it down in the denominator. So it's going to be 2 over 100, which simplifies to 1 over 50. So 1 is to n is 1 is to 50, where n equals to 50. Then it says write the following numbers in order of size, starting with the smallest number. So let's rewrite these in ordinary form. 5.625 times 10 to the power of 4 means that we will move the decimal 4 places to the right. So 56250. This is already in ordinary form. Then 56,250 times 10 to the power of negative 3 would be 1, 2, 3. We move the decimal 3 places to the left. So 56.250. Remember, every whole number has a decimal at its end. Even if it's not written, you automatically zoom. And over here, we'll move 5 units to the right. So that's going to be 562.5. So now, as you can see, the smallest one is 56.250. So 56250 times 10 to the power of negative 3. Then we have 562.5. So 0.00565 times 10 to the power of 5. Now after that we have 5,625, and then we have 5.625 times 10 to the power of 4. That is your answer.